Hey guys, this is Julian of Julian Gray Media, and the other day on SoundCloud I was listening to my favorite artist, Deadmau5, and my other friend, he actually covered it on piano, so that inspired me to learn it on piano, so I did. And then after that, I wanted to try to recreate it, because I had it in my head. I wanted to try to recreate it with the best accuracy possible, mix-wise and sound design-wise, and melodically. So the other day on SoundCloud, I put up a kind of like a 30-second snippet of like the beginning and into I think the second verse of the Veldt. Yeah, and then that was just my cover of it, and I did it in, I don't know, an hour or two, but I tried my best to try to recreate the original sound that Deadmau5 went for. So this is the project file. I'm going to have the download link for this at the end of the video. But let's just give it a playback so we can listen to it. I wish I can play the original track for comparison, but YouTube copyright won't let me. I'll get in trouble for it. So here we go. Cool, so I hope you enjoyed that. Now let's just start going over what we have here and how I made this remake here. I think it's pretty accurate. A few things are off, like the kick and the clap are off because Deadmau5 does drums like nobody's business. So it's very hard to emulate his drum style. But the rest of the song is pretty much a good match, I'd say. So the first thing we have here is the melody. As you can see here, here's the MIDI file. When you download the project, or if you just want to look at it, you can look at it now. Let me just drag it up. And that is the MIDI. You can also download these online. I think I'll just put a link to the MIDI in the description as well. And yeah, here's the MIDI for it. And let's actually get into the interesting stuff. Let's give this a solo here. Ableton stops crashing. So let's solo that track, and then let's take a look at what we have in the chain for it. So here we go. Cool. So here's what I have in the chain for that pluck. We have Serum here doing all the synthesis. If you don't have Serum, I'll freeze all the tracks before I send the project out. And this is just essentially an initial preset with one oscillator tuned down one, each of the oscillators tuned at 7 unison with a little bit of detune on them. And then we have this cutoff modulation for every note with the envelope, and that essentially, whenever it hits one time and then fades right down to make that pluck sound that everybody knows. That do 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 do. See, if I open that cutoff, we get this. Okay, so that's the sound design aspect. We have a little bit of delay on there, 8 and 4. It kind of adds to the sound. If you can hear on the original track, he does have a little bit of delay on there. And the reverb just kind of fattens it up and sticks it in the mix a little better. It's not a ton. I have a lot of high cut on there. I have a lot of low cut. Oh, a good amount of low cut, rather. And then no pre-delay, a little bit of size. And that's the reverb. It's going through a chain compressor. A side chain to this chain track down here, and that starts right as it drops. Here we go. Let me play it. So as you can see right here, there's no chain up until this point, and that's when it fades out. So that chain is essentially pulsating that pluck here. So if we play it back, if you watch the gain reduction, you can see that every time it pulses, it brings the volume down. So that's the pluck. We have a limiter on there. It's just giving a little bit of a gain boost, and it kind of squashes it into the mix a little bit better, so all the lower volume sounds of, or lower volume harmonics of that sound are getting brought out. That's the pluck. Next part we have is, let's just do this out of order. We have the high bleep. That's throughout the entire song. You probably didn't even notice if I didn't say anything. It's this. So when we add that to the pluck, it kind of gives it like an off in the distance kind of sound. See, it kind of adds to it. And that is just Serum again. It's doing a very similar thing. You can check out all these patches when you download the project. It has this envelope here that's doing a very similar pluck kind of thing, but it has a little bit of attack on it, so it goes row instead of dung. So it has like a kind of more rounded feel to it. It has a lot of reverb on it, and that's what's making it sound so far off in the distance. Reverb, against contrary belief, is it doesn't make a sound bigger. It makes it sound farther. Volume makes it sound bigger. So, there we go. Next thing we have is my favorite part. It's those two pads, and those things kind of make the entire thing for me. If you listen to the original, he does a 2-layer pad. A lot of people don't realize it. Here we go. Let me just play this part. So the first layer of that pad, well, both of them do this exact same volume rise. They go up and then they go down. But the first one is doing a little bit of it's doing just a kind of a super saw kind of sound, but it's filtered off the top, so you can't get the you just get the ha. And then that particular track, this particular high riser is in key with the song. So the song is in E, and this riser is doing a note in E. The low riser, however, let me play that back. It is doing this really strange, like kind of like a vocal kind of pad. Here we go. A lot of like breathy noise to it. And that is playing a lower note in the scale. I believe it is a C. And if you listen to the original song, he has like this kind of like low ambience that comes up and then fades back down. That's the C note. So if we play that with the rest of the track, or the other two tracks we had, the pluck and the bleep, we can get that effect that Deadmau5 uses in the song. Cool. as for processing on these, we have a utility bringing the gain down, and that's just because I modulated the volume and I needed something to change the gain without messing with this all the time, so I have the gain knob here. We have a stereo imager. This is essentially just two utilities in a rack, and it's splitting the signal between the two. One is going 200% wide and one is going 0% wide, so we get one full mono signal and one like extra wide stereo signal. And what we did was we turned up the gain on the extra wide, so it kind of sounds a lot wider in the stereo image. So we did that, and of course we did some low cut to make it fit better in the mix. The other one doesn't have any processing on it because I did it all in here. I added a lot of tube distortion and a little bit of reverb, and it gives us this cool. Cool. Next thing we can cover is the noise channel. This is a combination of things as well. We have multiple things making up that riser, and then we have a lot of things that just fade in coming up. So first things first, let's just play it back. Cool, so the first thing we have is this Breathy Synth. It's just a noise H breath going through Serum, and I'm modulating the filter frequency through this envelope here. As you can see, it goes up and then it spikes and goes, and then it comes down. We have a low cut, so we don't have all that lower mud in the sound. We have some reverb on that, and we have compressor compressing the reverb so it's the same volume as the rest of it. Very important. We have the chain that's going through, and it's making it go instead of just a sh. And then we have the stereo imager on this as well, and we're making that wide channel louder than the mono channel, so we're getting more signal around us than we are getting in front of us. Next thing we have is the noise channel. It's very, very similar. I believe it's exactly the same, just with the minor changes like the width, volume, and this one is doing a ARP white noise instead of an H breath noise, and this filter is a little bit different and it lasts a little bit longer than the H breath. And then we have this crash here. What we're doing on that is we're doing a sample here. Let me just play it. And what we did was we assigned all these to fade right the way up to the maximum velocity and then fade right back down. If you don't know how to do this, you can check out my video on the top 5 things in Ableton you don't know how to do, and that is in the upper above me. So cool. Next thing, let's look at the processing on that hat, or that crash, because it's very important. We have this low cut because we want all that high frequency, but we don't want the low. We got the reverb on it, of course, because it's a hat and we want it to kind of resonate in the mix a little bit. And it froze again. We got a little bit of a mid cut to get rid of some of that mud in the mids. We got a compressor to bring that reverb up to volume. I don't know why Ableton is being so unresponsive today. We have, yeah, the compressor to bring all that reverb up to volume with the rest of the track, and we have the side chain that is making it go so that the reverb isn't playing all the way through. It's kind of like fading in and out. So together with what we had before, we have this. Let's see, pluck. Cool. That's sounding a lot like the original track. One thing I forgot to mention, I think I put No, okay, I got it all. Next thing we have is the drums, of course. We have that kick. The kick is kind of inaccurate in my opinion. I had to do some pretty drastic EQ to try to even get it to sound like that. His kick is this very, very subby kick, and I don't have a kick like that, and I don't have the plugin he uses to generate kicks. So this is as close as I could get. And then we have the clap that comes in. It's doing some reverb. And it doesn't sound very good when it's soloed, but in the mix it sounds a lot like the original. And then we have that hat. So the hat's just playing very, very short. It's very short in the original track. And then we have this send here. And when that's enabled, it enables this hat delay here. So it's going to pan back and forth every note like pss, tss, 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 tss. And then we have the delay here that makes it kind of tss, 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 instead of just one hit. So if you listen here when it activates, so then we get this like two timing hat that goes back and forth from ear to ear, and he does that in the track, I believe. The clap, as you can see here, we just have some compression on it. We have the EQ, we have reverb, we have the more EQ, and another compressor. I just tried to do my very best to emulate his clap. One thing I forgot to mention on the hat, I'm doing a little bit of stereo imaging on that as well. It's going 100 milliseconds on the left and 5 milliseconds on the right, and it kind of separates. It goes like one hit this way and one hit that way within like a few milliseconds of each other. So it kind of widens the clap. You can hear in Deadmau5's track he actually does this. The clap is actually separate, just a tad. So I tried to emulate that with the simple delay. I already went through noise, drums. Next thing we have is this high dream. This is kind of interesting to emulate. To do that, all I did was go into Serum here. I created this sound. It's kind of like a supersaw kind of sound, but it's high. And because it's high, it doesn't sound like a supersaw. I had the cutoff really low, so it goes like... Here, I'll just play it. So it's kind of doing a plucky thing too, but because it's hitting the top of the thing, it sounds very sharp and kind of like a metallic ring. You can check out all this sound design when you download the product below, or project below, product. Besides that, I have some reverb on there, and what really makes the sound is this delay here. We have a very, very strong delay with a very long feedback. And I kind of actually recreated some of the delay myself so it can get like this natural sound. If you listen here, I recreated this part so it would ring on for longer. Cool, that's the Dream Synth. If we add that to the rest, we have these. Cool, and that brings us right to the next part here. The next part is this high synth we have. This is pretty easy to do. It's another plucky kind of sound design. If I play it back here, it's going up and down very fast with the beat, just like the pluck was. If you notice, this song is very, very plucky and very short sustain. It just comes in and then comes out very fast, like ding 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 ding. So to make this sound, I did a supersaw kind of sound. It's 7 unison on each side, a little bit of detune. One oscillator is below the other, and then we have a ton of delay. That's doing a quarter note on the left, eighth note on the right. We're doing a lot of reverb, and that's the key to this sound. It kind of resonates a lot, but it doesn't like fill the mix because of a sidechain compressor. So if we listen to it again, you hear that like kind of like like it's not orchestral, but like very ambient sound above. It kind of sounds like it's above you. It's like a it's not like the tone of the note, but it's the reverb trail. And to make that, it's just a ton of reverb on there, and that sidechain is squashing it every single beat, so that it's going like it's there, but it's getting squashed at the same time. So that kind of makes like a very nice like ambient effect. We have the stereo imager on this as well. It's going ultra wide, so it's coming around you instead of in front of you. The compressor is bringing all that reverb up so that it's up in the mix. If we listen to this without the compressor, see how the compressor kind of fills up the sound? That's what we want. And then there's the side chain here, and you can't see it because my head is cutting off half of it here. And that is just pulsating it. Without the side chain, it doesn't sound good. And cool, that's the high synth. Now, last but not least, we have the piano and its counterpart, the melody. If we listen to the piano, this is what we get. And that is just a piano tech. I believe I just played with it, a preset, I believe, actually, because I wanted to get something kind of natural sounding. I didn't want to get something too wacky, so I just used a piano emulation plugin like Piano Tech. I know that most of you probably won't have this plugin, so I'm gonna freeze the arrangement so that you don't have to deal with it. The compressor here is bringing the low resonances of the piano all the way up to give it more of like a off in the distance counter sound. So if we play it, cool. And then with the side chain, it's just pumping and pumping at that thing, so it's going really, really far down every time that kick hits. And that's kind of what Joel does in the track. So I just realized it's kind of clipping there. It's not good, but whatever. We have a kind of a low roll off, but not too much because piano requires a good amount of that low. We have a mid cut, we have a little bit of a high boost, and we have this thing called a hard panner, which is essentially the same thing as the stereo imager, but instead of using the width of the sound, we are panning one hard left and one hard right so that we're getting the same sound in both ear. If you talk to a lot of mix engineers, they like to do this with pianos because it kind of really widens up the track, and a piano is so bulky in the track. It's like it covers all the range of the spectrum of frequencies. You want to stick that as far to the left and right as possible so it leaves space in the middle of the mix. So the next thing we have is the melody, and if we just play this back, this is kind of just a layer on top of the piano to give it some synth touch. Joel does this in the track. It's kind of a more round sound in his track, but I couldn't really emulate it very well from what I heard of it, at least, because the piano was getting in the way. So this is the best I can do. And again, that's just a plucky sound in Serum with some interesting sound design. I'm not going into that. You can check it out when you download the project. Has that compressor, bringing that reverb up a lot, and then the chain is squashing it every beat to give it like a pulse. That's a common thing in this kind of like happy progressive house. You really want everything to squash underneath that kick drum, like run, run, run. It's like the style of progressive house. It's a signature. It's that ultra compressor sidechain. So we have just a little bit of a roll off here, and then I think that is all of the tracks we have. So let's just give it one final listen through. I'll just play it from the first verse here, and then yeah, let's give it a listen, and I'll talk to you in a sec. Cool, guys. So thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to check out my other Ableton Live videos. You can check those out above me right now. I make videos every Wednesday and Friday. I also vlog about the business and how to make it in music. And also, I make my own music. You can check that out in the annotation in the upper that way. So make sure to check that out. And this is Julian of Julian Gray Media. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below, and subscribe for future videos. So I will talk to you guys next Wednesday. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later.